Hello there, my name's Steve, and you are listening and tuned into the Go Football podcast. So, this is the podcast that talks all about grassroots football. Whether you are a coach, a player, parent, referee, just got a love for the game, sit tight, you are in the right place. So, this week on the episode, we are going to be talking about grassroots in crisis. We're going to be talking about pitches, costs, and cancellations. So, let's cue the whistle and let's get into it. So a massive thank you for coming back and listening to the Go Football podcast again. Look, I can't lie, I've not done any for a couple of weeks now, but a massive thank you to everyone that has continued to listen to them or gone back and found, other episodes that they may have missed out on us sometimes and gone back for those, because the listen rates have been really good and I've been really, really happy with those as well. So massive thank you to everyone for going and doing that and just going back and just supporting the podcast. We're coming up to 12 months now. It was January last year that we started those, and just over the Christmas period, we're going to be releasing more podcasts over the next week or two. We're even going to do a Christmas special, which will drop on Christmas Day. But that is just because we get the Boxing Day fixtures, don't we, for all the elite leagues, and we get nothing in grassroots. In fact, sometimes training for some of the kids now, bear in mind, it may have already stopped for a lot of you. So yeah, we're just going to be putting a couple of those out, some fun topics in there, and that's what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks. But I wanted to say a massive thank you for everyone who has been coming back and supported us throughout the year, and especially in the recent months when things have got a little bit busier. So massive thank you, but let's cue the whistle, let's get into it properly. So in grassroots football, what is actually going wrong at the moment? I think there's a few things that we need to talk about really on this episode, and a couple of things we need to maybe unblock a little bit, and maybe some people have got the same frustrations here. So yeah, what is actually going wrong? Look, if you've been involved in grassroots football, you'll probably feel quite at home with this episode, to be honest, because this is probably affecting you right now, and you're probably going to have the same frustrations that I'm going to be talking about. That's dealing with a couple of major problems. One is about the costs going up for everything. Like, look, we're at winter time. We appreciate now that we're in winter training. We're going to be looking for things like additional pitches, places that we can go and train, places that we can go and have games on that are not going to be wrecking the pitches because, it's dark early. So we can't just go to the normal pitches that you'd be able to use in like the summertime, spring, autumn. From when it starts going dark, we can't use those anymore, which is, it's always a little bit frustrating, but it's just one of those things, sometimes, look, we'd still miss winter if it wasn't here, wouldn't we? So, we still need to have all of those things. But, the pitch hire, training facilities, equipment, insurances, league fees even have been going up too. Everything's rising, and some pitches I've noticed recently, and this is just from me personally, when I've been looking at my one-to-one sessions, I used to be able to do them on 3G because the prices were great and everything was good. And then all of a sudden, wham, 4 times the cost is what mine went up to. So yeah, it went absolutely ridiculous. And I know what they were doing. They wanted to have people on there full time. Can't really blame them, really. I'm doing one-to-one sessions. If teams are wanting to get on there, they can make more money and it's for more people. I completely understand it. But for a lot of grassroots teams, what you'll also find is that you're in that bracket where more teams that have maybe got 20 players and you've got a team of maybe you're playing 7-a-side, so maybe you've got 10 players in your team or something like that. Because they can pay more, they're getting them too, but I've seen that some pitch rentals are jumped by like 20, 30 or even like 50% for some people. Like I say, mine went up 4 times what it was, so I don't really want to do the percentage on it because it gives too much information away. But yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that is one thing that is making grassroots football really struggle at the moment, especially with a lot of the academies that are turning up as well and the paid for works that are coming out too, where you can pay for sessions, whether that's in a league or that's not in a league or something like that. They've probably got a little bit more money because, a lot of the parents there are maybe paying anywhere from £40 to £100 a month per player in some of them, and even more than that in some that I've seen too. So they've got the money to be able to book the sessions, and that's what they can really sell it on is like, we're going to be on 3G, we're going to be on 4G, we're at this pitch every single week, and they can afford to pay and kind of what we used to call gazumping with house prices as well. They're doing the gazumping with pitches at the moment, making everything really, really costs just going up. And on top of that too, the reason why we need to have these pitches is weather conditions are just causing absolute chaos at the moment with grassroots football. With grass pitches, waterlogged. Like where I train, honestly, I've been to some pitches and Honestly, we probably would have been better taking a roll of bin bags and just saying to each one of the players, just slide on that across the pitch, because it was that much water on there as well. It was almost, you know, like, I'm not saying that you're shin pads and boots, but almost snorkels at the same time on some of them. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I get that there's not enough funding out there. Maybe something needs to be done with funding for things like drainage. But if it's council pitches, where a lot of grassroots will be playing on a lot of those kind of fields, it makes it very hard to be able to do that, because they're used by the general public for the rest of the rest of the time. There's not a game on there too, goal mouths though. Oh gosh, they're like swamps. If we've got any goalkeepers that are listening to this, you will know this as well. Like, when someone says, if you're a goalkeeper this time of year, there's no way that you're staying on your line, because you're up to your knees in mud the whole time. So yeah, you're always out of there as well, which is probably a good tactic for getting you off your line. But yeah, I've seen, and I've posted this, so if you go and check one of my socials, where player runs through, kicks the ball, keeper's missed it, ball's going towards the goal, massive puddle of water on the goal line as well. Ball stops just before the goal line, defender comes in, clears the ball, no goal. Any other day of the week, that would have been a goal too. So yeah, look, weather conditions are getting really bad, which is also bad for players, because it means that we're cancelling training when we probably don't need to, especially if we're using kind of grass pitches that have got floodlights on them, really, really hard. The important one that everyone hates, though, as well, is matches, because matches are played daytime generally for most players. I know there's a few floodlit leagues that I referee on. So, yeah, they have those. But generally, most matches are played Saturdays and Sundays during daylight hours. But those games, they're all getting postponed. And this is getting annoying, isn't it? Because when you get a postponement of these games, what happens? It gets added on to the end of the season. Season's supposed to stop from a lot of teams around February, March, maybe into April. But generally the April games are anything that they weren't able to sort of like fulfill. Whereas now, some of these teams that I've seen, where I've either been booked to referee or from my own teams that I look after, yeah, some of the games now, they've already been pushed back into March, April, and that's without any games in between now and February. Bear in mind that January is the worst month, I always think, for weather, and February is not far behind it, because that's when we're going to get all the snow in those 2 months. That's where we're going to get the worst weather and the worst storms. You're probably going to end up with more and more games getting cancelled over that period of time, pushing the league back and back and back. A few years ago, when I had the girls' team, I'm sure that we ended up having to play something ridiculous. And then we didn't actually play all these games because they just didn't happen. But I'm sure we had something like 5 games in 8 or 9 days. It was literally like game on, game off, game on, game off, something like that. It was ridiculous. Now, they all didn't happen because they were like weekdays and the other teams had to travel far. So we ended up just postponing the games and then just putting down home wins or not. I mean, there was one team that we knew that we'd probably end up getting a draw, and a draw would have been a fair one. So we actually just put the result through as a draw 0-0. For one game as well, but we'll not say which game or who it was or anything like that, because we don't want to get anyone in trouble with it. But yeah, it was just one of those things, like the players, they just weren't able to do that, and they weren't able to cope with it, and it was just too much football for them to be able to play. So yeah, absolute nightmare that we're having at the moment with things like weather. I mean, if you look at how many games, I think I saw this as a statistic that went out not that long ago, which was 150,000 grassroots games gets cancelled or postponed every season due to the weather. And there is a lot of games that are getting postponed in a lot of leagues a lot of the time. But what does that also have the effect on? Well, for some kids, they might end up going like 3, 4, 5 game weeks without a game at all. That's not great for them. It's hard to keep their motivation high. And coaches, it's really hard to keep your motivation high and your morale high with your teams when you're like, yeah, there's no training this week. Yeah, there's no game this week. Because as soon as you drop out of it for 3 weeks of no training for 3 weeks and no games for 3 weeks, and this is that period at Christmas time, which we all expect. But if you've already had 3 weeks at the end and then you've got another 2 weeks at the other side, you could go 6, 7, 8 weeks, something along those, without any. I mean, kids are going to lose their fitness, parents will lose their patience with it as well. Coaches probably going to lose your mind and lose your hair as well if you've not already lost it. And then the season's going to be extended right the way through to the end of May. So absolute nightmare. What do we need to do about it? Hopefully, there's a couple of solutions that we maybe got with it. I mean, one of the main issues, I think, is the rising costs of grassroots, and it's more on the money side, isn't it? It's more about the 3G, the training facilities that we can get. Couple of really good solutions that we've maybe got, which don't always work for everyone, especially for the younger ones. This may work, but things like sports halls and schools that have halls, you can rent those out relatively cheap. I think that's always going to be a good option for the younger ones. They're not going to have the football boots on, they'll have to wear indoor footwear, but at least you're inside with them, a little bit nicer for parents, especially when it's cold, frosty, can't go out, it's not cold or anything like that. So we all know that a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old is their body temperature is gonna drop really, really rapidly, and that's gonna go down. So sometimes indoor training. So I would definitely say that. And there's a couple of links that I'm going to try and link on to the bottom of the bio, which is just in your area what you can do. It's like it's national link as well, but you just put in your area and it'll tell you which schools are in your area. Could you possibly rent some space inside if you needed to? And sometimes you can do it at really short notice. And yeah, using sports halls for very young kids, I think is fine, and that's probably a good solution to have. And the parents are definitely going to appreciate not having to wash muddy socks, because the socks are always the worst. And then you've always got someone that's sliding across, probably in a white top or a very, very pale colour, sliding across a pitch, getting absolutely caked in mud, and then the dad's got to wash it within about 24 hours for the game at the weekend, especially if you train on a Friday night. So sometimes that is maybe an option to kind of have. The other one would be, smaller areas share with not just other teams in your club, but maybe other clubs, and maybe have some club share spaces that you can also get. So rather than the 9-a-side, could you get smaller spaces? Some are split into thirds, some are split into quarters, some can be split into sixes. And this is one little thing that I've noticed recently too, is that you don't get many of these, by the way, as well. There's just a couple in the area that I live, and that is where you've got a pitch that has been sponsored by a team that also play NFL. Now we'll call it NFL because it is American football. So with that, what you find is that the pitches are longer. So where the pitch would normally come up in the end line would be like the end zone on those pitches. So you've maybe got another 20 foot plus on each side. So you've got maybe another 40 foot worth of pitch. Sometimes if you can get one of those and you can spread that out across the whole team, maybe you're just hiring the whole pitch, but you might be able to get maybe 2 teams of junior teams in at the end at the same kind of times that you'd get everyone else in. So you might be able to get maybe 6 or 7, 8 teams, maybe if you split into 8s, you might be able to split it into those kind of numbers, and just reduce the costs. So if you've got any NFL teams around or any NFL 4G pitches near you, I'd definitely say go for one of those. Now I know that there is 4 that is near me, or within maybe a 15-minute drive of where I live. So there's got to be some others, probably more in some big cities. In Birmingham, you probably find them. Where you probably find them is probably at the university, probably somewhere like that. Nottingham, I believe, has got them too. I know that Leicester's definitely got them. So yeah, they are all over the place, but that might be one of the things to maybe do too. But yeah, with the costs, the pitch hire is ridiculous now. And also, the pitch hire for match day is also really bad. Now, we've just been saying how much they are flooded out, not fit for purpose a lot of the time, and the games are getting called off too. So probably something more needs to be doing regarding that. A good option, I think, for a lot of councils, not that I'll be able to go around and do that, but maybe you can put the letters in, is just change where the pitches are on the same fields. So go turn the 2 5-a-side pitches into an 11-a-side, or play an 11-a-side across it, or the 9-a-side, something like that. And on the 11-a-side pitch, turn that into 5-a-side pitches or 7-a-side pitches or something, or 2 9s or something like that, just so that the ground's probably getting different wear and tear all the time. And it'll just keep things out of like those goal mouths, because you're not playing right to the end of the lines all the time, especially if you look at 3G and you see all the different lines all in one go. You'll see what I mean with that. 7-a-side pitches, you're probably 10 foot away from the goal mouth on a lot of them. So they're going to get that little bit of rest time that they maybe need, so that we can just turn them back maybe a few months later into 11-a-side pitches, and there's a bit of repair on those as well. And I do think that may help a little bit. So yeah, with referee costs, yeah, they are going up a little bit, but I think that's quite a fair thing to be able to pay for as well. Look, no referee, no game. I know that a lot of people will think that they're paid really well, but the amount of hours that they're actually out of the house to go and do a game is absolutely insane. I think that that is much higher than what people expect. I think that most people expect that you're just there for your 90 minutes or so, something like that. It's definitely not the case. Sometimes I can be out at 2 o'clock for a game at 2 o'clock and not be home till 6, just because of how the game's gone, things that we need to do, especially if it's in something like the Women's Super League or something like Women's Super League, Women's National League. Sorry, I'm not that good yet. I mean, I'm on the pathway, but not there yet. Just misspoke. Let's rub that one out. I'll see if I can edit that out. But look, I don't think it's that much for the amount of hours, the amount of everything that you go and do. I don't think that's too bad. But I do think that some families are getting priced out of grassroots football because they have to charge more because everything is going up. Like I said, the cost to hire the pitch where we are for an 11-a-side game, plus the referee, because we need time before, time after. We play 80 minutes, probably need 30 minutes before, a little bit of time afterwards. We have 4 interventions. We have interventions on 20 minutes. So it's not like we just have a 15-minute or 10 minutes half time. There's intervals all the way through. Even 5 minutes each one of those adds another 20 minutes as well. So it can quite easily be that we've got to hire the pitch out for 2 hours plus a referee at 40 odd quid. It's an easy 200 quid per game. And I do think that some of those costs, they are getting passed on, obviously, to the people that are playing. And that is forcing a lot of families out. I remember grassroots football not even that long ago being about £15, and I think that was massively subsidised. And that was £15. That included your training, your winter training, your kits, all the equipment for the coaches, absolutely everything for the whole year. I think there was a bit of sign-on fee as well. I can't remember, but I think the sign-on fee might have been like 20 quid or something like that, which probably paid for the tops, to be fair. Just to make sure that they were there and that we weren't trying to take that on a monthly basis and there was money rolling in and everything. But yeah, that's what we get. And I do think now that, like I said before, there's probably a little bit of pitch war, isn't there, of like who can get what pitches. You ring up your 3G pitches, even if they are available, they cost a lot. But even if they're not available, they're not available because everyone's vying for the same times. So everyone wants after school, they want before it's too late. So everyone's going for that sweet spot of when can we get kids trained, when a parent's available, when can we do everything, which is generally like 6 o'clock, hot time. 7 o'clock, probably hot time. 8 o'clock, probably hot time still, especially for the old ones, like under 15s, maybe under 16s, something along those lines. Even maybe some of the younger ones that not too young, but sort of like under 13s, under 14s, might be 8 till 9 once a week too. Just try and get on the pitch. It's very rare that you'll be able to get pitches from 4 o'clock because a lot of the time, if they're attached to a school, the school will want them and they won't let you go on there till 5 o'clock. So you've got 5, 6, 7, and 8 o'clock. So you maybe got 4 hours to get all the teams in the local area on the pitch. Not always going to happen too. But with that little bit of pitch wars, if the prices go up and one team can afford to pay for it, they're the ones that are going to get the slot, which is a shame, really, because grassroots football is supposed to be for everyone, But I think that a lot of schools now, they're also trying to make extra money by renting their pitches out. I think that some of the micro pitches probably too small to be able to train in. A lot of the times for older children, shared spaces, there's no floodlight in it a lot, so it makes it really, really difficult too, doesn't it? If we're looking at some serious teams that are playing as well, they will honestly, they'll play in any environment they've got. So I've seen some teams recently, especially at one field that's near me, where they've taken their own floodlighting and they load it up, and that's what they do every time. And I don't know how long the lights are going to last as well, but I imagine that they've not got much longer than maybe 2 or 3 hours tops have been able to use those lighting for. What else could we do this time of year when it goes really horrible of this as well? Join a futsal team. Or go and see if there's any futsal pitches as well. Like, look, and it's not quite the same, but the skills that you get and the different techniques that you would use in futsal definitely will help a lot of footballers in their games when they're playing 11 aside. There's so many different skills. Obviously, the balls weigh differently, the goals are different sizes, the ball needs to move much quicker, all of those different things. Very much about receiving the ball, being able to play quickly, you're under pressure quickly as well, so decision making's good. But I think that's probably a little bit of a good idea to do. And sometimes it's probably cheaper to join one of those than it would be to put your costs all the way up. And I know that's might be thinking it's taken away from a team, but maybe you can go and join in with those. Maybe there's some availability on the same places that they actually play that too. And that's what I think we probably need to go as coaches, maybe as clubs, maybe as teams into moving forward with it. So where does it impact? Where does all of this impact? This weather, the costs, everything like that. Well, development teams, players are going to slow down, aren't they? Unless they're getting extra help somewhere else, maybe through one-to-ones, maybe small group sessions, maybe they've got someone else that can help them outside. If they're very lucky, they might have brothers and sisters that also want to play and can play in gardens where they can play at other random times. But I also think that you're going to get a massive confidence drop, for all these teams that have been playing all the way through, and then it gets to December, and then now they've had maybe 2 or 3 weeks where they're not been able to train because the pitches are no good, or they couldn't afford the pitches and got moved around or anything like that. Then they're going to go into this little period now, which generally has no games in it, over Christmas and New Year, and then maybe start the new year with cancelled game, or someone's not available, or waterlogged pitch, frozen pitch, or whatever. They could easily lose 2 to 3 months. I remember a few years ago, I think there was a 13-week gap between our last game and our next game for one of our teams, just because everything was just getting close, and it was this time of year as well. So I think that confidence can really drop for a lot of kids. I think that they can get a little bit rusty, they lose their sharpness, maybe even start to doubt themselves. And, remember, this is supposed to be a game for everyone, that we want them to do it. But I think the enjoyment will probably drop because when they go back, they've got to learn all the same things. Coaches have done so much work in the pre-season all the way up to December of practices and more drills and making sure they're doing all the right things and doing loads of good stuff and getting some really good results. Now they're going to have 6 weeks where they've not been able to use those, and it's going to be frustrating. A lot of coaches are going to start again with some players. So, and maybe even some players will drift to other sports or go to other facilities or do those kind of things too. Doesn't really help that, I think that for some teams, they can kind of fall apart a little bit. Coaches, it's very easy to get stressed. I would just say, don't get stressed with these things. That's easier said than done. Because, with coaches, your phone never goes off. It's like a full-time job all the time. You're going to have some parents that maybe are complaining to you, why can't we get on this? Why can't we get on that? If you are a parent listening, honestly, the coach has got such a little small influence on whether something can happen or not in the team, especially if it's like waterlogged pitches. They just can't control it. They can't do that. They can't decide on the other team if they've got enough players, especially with all flu and everything that's been going around. And I understand that some kids will probably lose interest, and hopefully no teams fold at this point in the season. But it is a bit of a risk, really, when you've got things like costs going up, you can't get where you need to be, games are being cancelled, training's getting cancelled. Makes it very, very hard as well. So, yeah, we've got a little bit of a disaster happening with Grassroots at the moment, but it does happen every season, and we always do get through it as a football community. So just bear that all in mind. So a couple of things to maybe consider going forward. How can we resolve this? Maybe a couple of partnerships with schools so that if we do need to use sports halls very quickly, short notice, we've got that kind of relationship already for a lot of clubs or a lot of teams. So look, some clubs are very different. They're all very different. Every grassroots club that I've ever been involved with operates and works very, very differently. Sometimes coaches will be able to go out and actually find the pitches, because you've also got to remember that the people that are also helping run the clubs, they're volunteers too. So they don't always have the answers and the times. So sometimes just ring up the local schools and just say, like, have you got this? Have you got that? Could we, if we wanted to use your school hall very quickly because of bad weather for our under 8s or under 9s, would we be able to? How would that all work? Then you can forward that over to your club, and that'll be great as well. Like, say, school partnerships, definitely going to be able to help. Sharing facilities between other teams as well. Maybe if you've got 2 or 3 teams that are similar age groups, so an under 8s, under 9s, or under 11s, under 12s, could we use the same area at the same time? Could we try and get the same times for winter training? Even if you train on a Monday and a Tuesday during summer, Could we maybe all of a sudden, because Wednesday's available, could we maybe move it to a Wednesday, just to make it easier for everyone to be able to go there, and we can have two teams at the same time. Sometimes it's nicer for coaches to have that and have more people around rather than just focusing just on their team. Sometimes I find it really nice on a Monday night when I go and there's other coaches that I can talk to doing all of the other teams and all the different age groups. I actually get that, and I actually really like doing that too. But where can we also help? Well, we can maybe help by just doing a bit of community fundraising or fundraising within your own clubs, between your own teams. So grants, raffles, maybe we can even go and get some local sponsorship from some businesses, whether it's the boards around the sides, if we don't have that because it's parks and things like that that we're using. Could we advertise things on social media for them? Could we have that? Maybe it's player of the game or man of the match, girl of the game, something along those lines. Maybe they could sponsor some of the awards at the end of the season, but the money that we could get for it, that might be able to help with a couple of weeks worth. I mean, look, most teams have maybe most improved, players, player, parents, player, coaches, player, maybe one other as well, say 5 awards. If you could just get enough money to say, look, can you just sponsor this one award? And that'll pay for 1 week. You've got 5 weeks. Summer's coming round or autumn's coming round, 5 weeks worth of additional training on 3G pitches paid for with sponsorships for your awards might be a little bit of an idea too. But yeah, flexible training also definitely needs to happen. Let's say if you can join up with another team or another group, maybe it's not even a team that's in your group, in your club. Maybe it's maybe a partnership with another one. Sometimes we've got some boys teams and girls teams as well, similar kind of ages. Maybe they can share facilities whilst they're both on there, because let's face it, if you've got a 9-a-side pitch and the pitch is split into threes and it's all the way along an 11-a-side pitch, maybe you only need to have a 6 of the pitch for your age group if they're really young. Maybe you can do that, speak to a couple of extra clubs, see where they train, see if there's availability for you to have that. Maybe there was one season this happened for me, is that at the side of me there was no team there on the 3G pitch at any time during there, and that's because that team had folded. But if someone had contacted the other team that was supposed to be there and they weren't associated with us at all, complete different club that had closed down, if someone had contacted them and said, can we rent that off you? You've already booked it, you're already paying for it. They probably would have said yes. We just didn't need it. And good for us, our chairman and everyone like that at the time sorted everything out. We were absolutely fine with it. So, yeah, I think that, is there anything that can be done regarding the pitches that we use that are getting waterlogged? Very hard. Okay, so a lot of investment in like goal drainage and pitch drainage, and probably just not going to happen for a lot. But maybe we need to be lobbying some councils to put some more 3G investment in there as well. There's a lot of schools with a lot of area. There's a lot of area and green space that we could be able to use that. Maybe that would be something we would need to do, and maybe we can do it as local communities, and maybe we can all write into our local FAs and maybe speak to the councils and said, this is what is needed. This is what is needed. All these people will use it. This is how many children will be able to use it. And we want to make it especially for grassroots football. And I think that may be one little solution too. So let's just wrap things up with this episode as well. Look, I know there is crisis is real within grassroots football, but look, every single person that is involved with grassroots, whether you are a coach, a parent, a player, referee as well, you'll have been affected by one of these things, because you will have had some games that have been cancelled. You will have had rising costs, teams that are folding, problems with motivation and fitness with players and restarting from scratch, after you're able to go back. It's one of those things, but we always survive as grassroots. There's always grassroots teams. There's always grassroots football that is going to be on. We are at one of the most frustrating times of the year for grassroots football. Do we need better facilities? Yes. Do we need better support? Yes, we do too. I suppose there's a number of things that we're going to that some of the local FAs are going to have to think of and bring up, but hopefully they'll get better and better. Now, for people that have been around grassroots football for a long time like me, you know that it's a long, long road, and you've probably been saying this 10 years, 15 years ago, okay? But change will only happen if we try and force it through. So, maybe think of some of the other ideas, and maybe think of some of those fix-arounds that we talked about now. So, like I said at the beginning of the podcast as well, we're doing more podcasts that are going to be coming up over the next week or so. If you want to get in touch and you've got any bits that you want to get in touch with, then absolutely do. You can just get me at gofootballpod@gmail.com. That'll come straight through to me. I'll reply to you. Now, I have got a couple of people that are wanting to be guests and come on the podcast and talk about something for them. So we're going to try and get those on in the next week or so, and hopefully they'll all be released. But yeah, if you want to do that, check us out on the socials too. You can get us at Go Football Pod or podcast. You can get us on things like TikTok. You can get us on YouTube on those. Don't forget you can also listen to Spotify, Amazon Music. We're on Casterbox as well. We're on all of those platforms. If you want some practices and some training drills and some games to play, just go Football Coach or Go Football Coaching, depending on which platform you're on. But if you put it in, you'll see the logo. You'll know it's mine. But there's some small-sided games on there, some team training games on there too. You'll also find a number of other things on there that some little comedy bits, but generally it's a lot about learning and there to kind of help coaches out, help parents out, and things like that too. So if you want to get in touch with us with any of those, then please do. And until next time, keep grassroots and hope your games get played at the weekend if you're going to. And if not, listen to some of the upcoming podcasts that we've got coming out over Christmas and into the new year.